So anyway, I'm reading this thing, and it's just an absolute disgusting Judy Blume style narrative repeat of everything we had to watch in front of the committee, and none of it's firsthand. I mean, it's absolutely incredible that you would use multiple quotes attributed to John Bolton and not even subpoena the asshole. You never even subpoena. A lot of people probably don't even realize that Adam Schiff didn't even subpoena John Bolton. John Bolton has filed because I believe that he might have been subpoenaed for or by the judiciary in prior. I don't know what the hell happened, but I know that the Intelligence Committee didn't subpoena him. And Adam Schiff's answer was he didn't want to get into a rope-a-dope game. Well, right there, something doesn't smell right.
because that's all he's
And
been doing is getting into various
yeah,
rope-a-dopes.
everything is a freaking rope-a-dope. It's
Why
all
is this
third
one
hand. And
so objectionable and all the others are so nice, you know?
yeah, I watched the press conference thinking that maybe he'd have a little bombshell to sneak in there in addition to his report, and I obviously I heard nothing. It's not that dissimilar from what we've been speculating. Now we hear from Pelosi's office that they don't think they can get this vote out of judiciary to the floor by Christmas. Is going to be longer than that. And if you've been paying attention to this show, that will not surprise you because never in a million years did I think that they were actually going to follow through with what they said they were going to do. And there are no breaks like around the corner waiting to happen. They have no idea where these phone logs came from. They can't subpoena anything. And if they did try to subpoena something, it would take 6 months to get it. There is nothing in the court system right now that has anybody on the precipice of being forced by the courts to give up documents or testimony before judiciary committee. There's nothing on the horizon. So clearly, just look across the polls and you see that this isn't working. Read the report that Schiff releases. The information there is all secondhand. The documentation is not even in paper form as far as substantiating any of the claims. It's all based on so and so told me that he said, and then she said, and that's what I'm testifying to you before. And oh yeah, it's a quid pro quo because 2 + 2 = 4. Well, I this is not new for me to watch them go down this trail today. I mean, Doug Collins, this guy certainly doesn't need any political Viagra for you to see that he's excited to have this come into his domain now as a ranking member, as a Republican ranking member on judiciary. And Nadler is, God help him. I don't know what his stamina is at, but we're not, the president's not looking at any participation at all. That is because there is no due process in this. The House resolution stated that everything up to objections can be overruled by Fat Jerry. So there's no due process here, and
There's
it's
no
not going to happen.
upside.
So
Therefore, there's no
there's
upside
no
for the
upside. We're not
president. Yeah.
participating. I don't think there's. I mean, and I don't see Mulvaney popping up or Pompeo or anybody, Bolton. So realistically, what's going to change between now and the end of the year? Nothing. I mean, how are they going to reconstruct a narrative that they've already given? Doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know what they're trying to do. So I'm following along like everybody else, trying to figure out what the political endgame here. And as I've said all along, it cannot simply be jamming this thing through judiciary on obstruction of Congress and abuse of power and sending that over to the Senate, because that's a terrible idea. It does nothing for them. It exposes them on the back end of all of this stuff and crushes their entire nomination season politically on the calendar. So what I think you're going to see is what I've said all along. It doesn't appear that they're going to entertain censure seriously at this point. But if you followed me over the last 2 weeks, you know that I think they're just going to push this on into a more indefinite model. Problem is, they're facing a really existential decision. One, can we keep this going into spring so that it hurts Trump and maybe gives a little bit of fodder for our nomination process for our candidates? But then how the hell do we justify impeachment in 6 months away from an election. You can't possibly do that. So at that point, if they really do extend it over into January and February, I think that's only going to be done in case they dislodge a smoking gun or get a court decision that forces documents from the State Department or the Office of Management and Budget, or anything else as far as somebody testifying that could corroborate any of the nonsense we've heard third hand. So it's almost like you're the Democrats. You want to wait to see if something shakes loose, but you're getting closer to no man's land as far as how the hell do you explain to the American people there's an election in a couple months, yet we're going to call for this drastic measure. So yeah, I go back to what I've said all along. They have literally painted themselves into a corner here. And I think they did it expecting something seriously to shake loose, a smoking gun, if you will. And if it hasn't happened up till now, what through the judiciary process is going to make that occur? If Zelensky's on record saying that this is, I guess they're looking at these two idiots that Rudy was hanging out with, these two Ukrainian screwballs that were living in Florida. They're now saying they have a bunch of dirt on Devin Nunes or whatever. How crazy are these guys? You're facing federal prison time in the United States of America. You're going to go after the one person who could make that problem disappear for you eventually. What are the Democrats going to do for you? Why are you trying to provide information to Adam Schiff? There's nothing Congress can do. They can't work with a Republican Department of Justice to get you a lower sentence, you freaking morons. These guys are as dumb as they look. And trust me, these two guys are that dumb and they look that dumb. So they need to wake up and smell the rich, fertilizer and just knock it off, because now you're inflaming a situation where you're going after the most powerful man in the world and some of his closest allies. You have no evidence. So I would say that you're adding years, not the other way. You're adding years on whatever potential sentence you're going to get. So whatever.
Well, yeah. Moving things around a little bit here. So what I'm hearing you say as of today, you don't see any reasonable course of action for the Democrats to either submit articles of impeachment to the Senate or to try some formal censure even in the House. That it just seems like their only move now is to kind of shelve it with some fanfare, hope they get lucky and bring it back, or just let it, die slowly on the vine and not mention it again? Maybe bring it up after he wins again or loses. I don't know.
It seems like I'm watching the Mueller report shit all over again with this crap now, where we have people saying that Nunes traveled over there to have secret meetings with Ukrainian officials. Doesn't that sound familiar? Oh, Michael Cohen went to Prague and had meetings about how to get around whatever with the Russian stuff.
But does reality?
Listen,
tell me something. In the world of politics, does common sense and reality exist? That kind of plan, it's like saying, this is the fourth time my girlfriend, I've busted her sleeping with a friend of mine. At what point is it just like, yeah, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. We can't do it anymore. I can't believe you when you say you're never going to do it again. This is like the fourth time. With the American people, the Russia hoax exploded so spectacularly on the runway. And then after the Russia hoax, there was something else, wasn't there? Obstruction. There was the obstruction fiasco, which went nowhere. Then I think there was the Ukraine gate, which didn't even last 3 or 4 days before they wanted to switch it to bribery. And that didn't even last 48-hour news cycle when they switched back to Ukraine. then they went back. Am I wrong here? But at what point
Then
does
it
the
went to
goodwill?
extortion.
Yeah, extortion. At what point does the goodwill of the American people just sort of dry up? And even people who don't particularly like the president's style, at some point will say, "Listen, this is
I
just
think you're
ridiculous."
already. I think you're already seeing it because most of it is static. It's a static element of who likes the president, who doesn't. It really matter what other ingredients you throw into the stew. So I think you're looking at independence here with a wary eye if you're, any presidential candidate, including the president himself. And right now we have no reason to be reticent or in any way reluctant to hammer the shit out of this. And it's exactly what the president's doing. They asked him today about the likelihood of settling this through compromise of censure, and he was like, "Hell no," which, like I said a while ago, he was never going to agree to anything like that. They can still go ahead and do it. You only need one chamber. You don't need to make it a concurrent resolution. It doesn't have to be bicameral. So, I mean, I don't know. I think, people are where they're at. They're not really moving, and I don't see anything in the near future by the end of the year that is going to change that, or anything that's going to shake loose or dislodge to change the process. So now here, that's your decision you have to make as Pelosi. So Pelosi's first kind of tell, if you want to use a poker term, her first tell here that she's bluffing is that she's now allowing her staff to let members of the caucus know that this is not going to be done by Christmas. That's a pretty significant tell because there is no, maybe the week after Christmas, because there's nothing in Congress until after the holidays are over. So, and then now, if you, like I've said before, if you're going to dump this in Fat Jerry's lap and he only starts working on it in the first week of January, well, what the hell are you going to do? I mean, that's going to take you at least 3 weeks to drum up the enthusiasm to get articles drafted in the Judiciary Committee, and then they have to be passed by the House, and then you deliver them to the Senate. What are you going to do at the end of January? I mean, boom, right there. You're at the doorstep of Iowa and New Hampshire, and then Nevada and South Carolina. I mean, how the hell do you plan on doing this?
Yeah, if
But
you're a
I think,
Democrat, how do you even How do you even have a primary at that point?
excuse me, I think Jim Jordan himself said today that it's his speculation that the Dems have gone too far down the tracks to turn back on this issue. So
So
I don't
our
know. I
friend,
mean,
well, your friend, or is it my friend? Probably my friend, not your friend. Smarty Jones asked the question on Periscope. Um, at what point do those 30 some odd swing state Democrats who were swept in pretending to be Republican light during the midterm, at what point does Nancy Pelosi start losing control of the situation?
I don't think she ever had control of them. I think that they agreed that they would give her a one-time allowance, a pass, a hall pass, if you will, with that vote on the resolutions for the impeachment inquiry. And I think a lot of those votes came with the rider clause that this in no way signifies my intention to vote on articles of impeachment. So she knows. It's not like she doesn't know. But they're not dumb enough to go into the speaker in a politically tenuous time and say, I will not vote for impeachment, because then Nancy will turn around and say, oh, I will not support your reelection. So let me go find somebody to primary you, and I'll worry about keeping the district later. That's
So
politics, baby.
So yeah, but that's everything. So these guys are going to wait, and if they feel betrayed and they can kick Nancy on the way out their door, that's probably how she's going to go down, right?
Well, yeah, we talked about this last week. It was like the question became, as we were talking, if impeachment goes down, does Nancy go down with it? Because they're so inextricably linked at this point. I would have to agree with your assessment that there is almost no way, because if you have 20 to 24 freshmen in your caucus that buck the leadership's desires on something that is the most important vote they could ever have, then it's a war between, they can't take on 24 freshmen in districts they need to retain the majority. They don't have the money to go out and recruit new well-funded primaries against incumbents. So the 24 to 20, it won't be 31, obviously. Some of those districts have changed and their sentiments toward the president. But so you got 22, 24 members that just go to Nancy and say, I tell you what, we'll support you for speaker when we're reelected, but we're not voting for impeachment. So it's your choice. If you want to come after us, go ahead and do that, because then we will come after you. If we're reelected, we're coming after you. We're going to blame you when we lose seats. And, that's just us. We're just first termers here, but we've got 24 that'll come after you. So Nancy's in a no-win situation. If you look at the squad is still doing what we've been talking about the last 2 weeks, just kind of, now that they pushed Nancy up to the forefront, they kind of backed out of the fray a little bit. I mean, it was beautifully executed. It almost looks like it was a coup against Nancy Pelosi, putting her in an unwinnable situation. Some people might choose to look at it that way.
Which goes back to your earlier sentiments about Nancy Pelosi from years ago, that she's not smart.
No, she's not she's shrewd, I guess, is the word I guess you might want to attribute to her, but nothing in this, nothing in the Newt Gingrich or Henry Hyde type of long-standing ability to kind of manipulate the political process. But even they made the disastrous decision to impeach Clinton. So she's not the first one. Certainly not the first one to decide that this is a worthy gamble. I just fail to see. This is, if you take out New York, New Jersey, Illinois, California, Oregon, Washington, Maryland, to take those states out and poll the rest of the freaking country on this impeach and remove, you're going to end up with like 40%. You know what I mean? And that is like, that means the swing states being included, it's going to be lower. I mean, if you just, not even the swing states, but if you take in like all the red states plus the swing states, I mean, it's nowhere near a fracture in the Republican Party. And to impeach a president, you have to have a fracture. And if you don't, you get what we had in 1998 and 99, and you get destroyed. I can't. I mean, that lesson is so fresh in the minds of politicians in Washington that it blows my mind that they're ignoring it.
Thanks for watching the MAGA Coalition channel. Remember to subscribe to our channel and turn notifications on to get the best political analysis that is free of clickbait and gaslighting. Because in a world of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act.